Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. My ex-wife and I had been together throughout my time in active duty, and everything seemed fine until we moved back to her small hometown where her family lived. Both of us got jobs, which was significant because she had previously quit every career path she had tried, even with all the spousal credentialing support and tuition assistance provided by the military. But things began to change. She lost interest in doing things with me and our child, like going for walks or to the park. Instead, she started talking about other guys at work and their interactions, though nothing she mentioned seemed inappropriate at the time. I never felt uncomfortable because I trusted her completely, a mistake I would soon regret. The turning point came when she had the opportunity to go on a month-long work trip, earning extra money. I was genuinely excited for her because it had always been me going on trips with the military, and now she had her own chance. However, things quickly took a downward spiral. Whenever our child and I called her during the trip, she never answered. She would always text, claiming she didn't have service. Though I knew the location was remote, it still felt off. When she returned, she came home from the airport looking disheveled, handed me a beer, and immediately headed over to our neighbor's house, who, ironically, is now my girlfriend. Without even seeing me for a month, she begged our neighbor to go out for drinks, where she ended up making out with some guy in a car until he passed out, then disappeared into an alley with another guy who was engaged, doing who knows what. The whole time, our neighbor was confused and tried to intervene, but my ex-wife, who was much larger, made it difficult. That night, I stayed up until 6 a.m. waiting for her, unable to get in touch. Finally, the neighbor texted me, saying my ex-wife had made it home and was staying at her house. I was terrified. The next day, my ex-wife came home with dinner, and I told her we needed to talk. After our child went to bed, she confessed she couldn't do it anymore. All I knew at that point was that she went on a work trip, came back, and went to a bar. I was devastated, and in a desperate attempt to save our marriage, offered to do anything, something I'm sure many of us can relate to. I even offered to keep making payments on her new car and cover her rent for another place. It was pathetic, I know, but I was clueless, and I did it for about a month. During that time, I fell into a deep depression. I almost reached the point of no return and ended up in urgent care, where I was admitted to a psychiatric facility for 3 days. Before my depression fully took hold, I asked her to please remove the guns from the house because I didn't feel safe with them around. She said she would, but ended up forgetting. The real breakdown came when I later found out that during her work trip, she had been sleeping with a military member. Adultery is illegal in the military, and they were caught, leading to an investigation that effectively ended the guy's career. Rewinding a bit to before the work trip, she had been messaging her aunt's boyfriend, inviting him to go swimming alone and sending all sorts of inappropriate messages. The boyfriend never replied and immediately showed everything to her aunt. After returning from the work trip, and during the early stages of our separation, she was invited to a family gathering where she got extremely intoxicated, this from someone with a security clearance, mind you, and tried to sleep with another one of her aunt's boyfriends. Again, she was denied. But it didn't stop there. She began sleeping with multiple people on the military base where we both worked. She became known as the base's notorious flirt, and her behavior eventually reached HR, just as the incident from her work trip did. During my darkest times when I needed to go to the clinic, I called her to express how distressed I was. The sickening part was that she didn't care at all. I later learned that her family was practically begging her to talk to me, so I wouldn't harm myself. When I went to the hospital, I found out she couldn't even focus because she was too busy flirting with the doctor, who was a 45-year-old balding man with a face mask. All of this was happening without my knowledge until my neighbor finally gathered the courage to tell me everything. She was the only person who reached out to me during that tough time and continued to check up on me. She, too, had been through a painful divorce after being cheated on. To make matters more complicated, my neighbor is the daughter-in-law of one of my ex-wife's aunts. After learning everything, I knew I couldn't trust my ex-wife any longer, so I filed for divorce and lawyered up because I had no idea what could happen next. When I served her, she was furious and found out about my new relationship. In retaliation, she is now falsely accusing my girlfriend of assault. As honest as I can be, I didn't do anything wrong as a husband. Maybe I was on autopilot for a while during the transition to civilian life, but it was nothing major. Her actions caught everyone off guard. Even her family doesn't talk to her much anymore. Now she's drowning in debt because she refused to talk things out and keep it out of court. I'm in debt too, but at least I can somewhat afford it. There's even more bizarre stuff that happened in between and continues to happen. But at this point, I'm convinced that marriage offers nothing that dating can't. Luckily, I don't have much to lose.